Hi and welcome to Hygge and Homeschool. My name is Maya and I am the homeschool mom of a third grader and a toddler. And today I'm going to be talking about how I have taken some ideas from the Montessori education and implemented them in my homeschool, and what 7 things I love about Montessori and that we use in a homeschool. So I'm not trained in the Montessori. I just want to disclaim that I'm just a homeschool mom who have read some books, listened to some podcasts, listened to other homeschoolers, and I'm just talking about what I gained from it. I also want to say that I use a lot about from the Waldorf and from the Charlotte Mason. So I'm kind of in this happy mix of it all. And I think some homeschools would say that you cannot mix them and they're very opposite. But I'm going to try and talk you to how I use it and weave it in, spin it in with Mason and Waldorf philosophies. So the first thing that come to mind is with my toddler especially, that Montessori sees the kids as this independent learner who can just go in and explore something themselves if you just prepare the environment for them. They will come, they'll take it out, they will explore it, and they'll look at it, and you don't have to play with them, you can observe the child. And I will say, coming with the Waldorf philosophy, I do play a lot with my children. I use a lot of imaginary play, but I also set up these Montessori trays and Montessori activities for my toddler. So when I sit and homeschool my older daughter, she explores herself and she loves it, and I very much use that. I want my kids to be able to play independently at some point, and I love the way that both my toddler, I also actually use it with my bigger kid. I set up something and I have her sit and do independent study of it and explore it, like a microscope and some slides. And maybe we read something the day before and I just set it up and she sits and she observes herself. That could be an example. But right now it's very much the toddler who comes to mind with me setting up things, trays, or little stations before we start the school day. The oldest and me, sometimes the toddler would also sit and draw with her, but again it's independent play. So that is one thing I've taken from Montessori and used in a homeschool. This is a little the same. The first one I feel was more about how they view the child, or Montessori view the child as this independent learner. And then there is, I didn't think I differentiated enough, but the environment. We have a little shelf in the living room with 6 little shelves on, and there I put different activities for my toddler. Let me think what we have. We have some filtered flowers that you can put in a little vase. We have what's called 4-stripe games. A game where she can put down, she doesn't know the game yet, but she can take the little round coin things and put in. I might put some bean bags on one shelf. She can take them out, she can throw them into stuff. Actually, the bean bags are right here now. I'm trying to think what else. It's stuff in that theme that it's stuff that she can do, like very fine motor skill stuff. So it's not big imaginary. It's very do it tasks and get it done, finish it, explore it, clean it up, and put it back on the shelf. So we have those 6 shelves where I put out different things, and I try to rotate the things so they can keep her activated. The way where I also have wall up is I also prepare a space in here where we homeschool, but that is much more imaginative. And I don't think, and you can correct me in the comment if you sit there and you're a Montessori teacher or homeschool, a full Montessori homeschooler. I don't feel the imaginatory has as big a role in Montessori, if at all. But right in front of me over here, I put up a little dollhouse with little figurines, and she can play, and my daughter loves that. She can spend hours doing that, but she also loves the Montessori, which is much more, I want to say like fine motor skill development, and not as much imagery in the play. So it's more, put the coins in, and when you've done that, you take them out, you put them in a little ball again, and then you're ready for the next task. So that specific way of preparing the environments, as I have done on the shelf, where she has these little activities and she can take them out and she can play with them and she can put them back and then take the next out, I feel it's very much something I've gained from the Montessori philosophy. And then there is the next thing that I also have from Waldorf, which is the very much hands-on learning. I'll link it below. My oldest daughter, my language arts journey, it was me, threw us into phonics and phonetic sound out before having her write, for instance. So you had reading before writing, where there I feel the Montessori and the Waldorf come together in the child needs to experience the letters. They need to have a tactile sense. Montessori would have the sandpaper letters. They would have more hands-on math. They would have a lot of manipulatives, and they will have the child experience the lesson before teaching it in a book. So there's much more hands-on learning, also in math and language arts, which I really love. I totally agree with that. I after our experience with language arts, I'm gonna do it completely different when my toddler gets into the stage where she needs to learn the letters. It will be her writing them and experiencing them, and have actual wooden letters to see and hold, and grasp the letters and writing them out before sounding them out would be a thing. I don't know if that is Montessori, but at least that's how I plan to do it. But Montessori definitely is the tactile geography. We have a globe over here to experience it on an actual globe. I would think would be, again, you have to correct me, before just putting it on a flat map in front of the child. So have these experiences and have actual learning is also a part of it, that you go out and see an actual plant or an actual insect and talk about the factual insect. Here I feel it clashes maybe a little bit with the Waldorf, where they're more creating images. So let's say the child asks, how does a rain cloud work? A Waldorf homeschooler might say, the little fairy drops get evaporated. They might not even use the word evaporate, but like would fly up in the sky, and then when the sky was full, they would rain down and they would soak into the earth and become one with the earth fairies. So they would try to give the Waldorf kid this image in the mind of how the water evaporated and fell down again. Where the Montessori is very much facts, but not like where it differs from a normal school setting would be that in the school they would read about it in the book, where the Montessori kid would put some water in a cup and go out and see the actual evaporation, if that makes sense. I hope I'm getting this right. If there's any Waldorf teachers, Montessori teachers, please comment below if I'm completely wrong. But that is how I see it, and I do a mix of both. I love to use the rich imagery and tell stories about the water, and then in the same lesson I can go out with a cup and give my daughter the factual. So I mix them in a weird way, and I love to do that. And I really love the Montessori hands-on way. which I mix into. I'm happily to just clump them together with Waldorf and Charlotte Mason's nature stories, and just use them. I know it might be almost illegal in some Montessori Waldorf teachers' minds what I'm doing, but that is what I'm doing in my homeschool. And I love that aspects of the hands-on, that we do it, that if we look at different matters, we melt ice to water and then we have it evaporate. So the child get that whole experience, which I love. So that's how I do it. So don't come for me with pitchforks because I'm actually putting two philosophies together that's supposed to not go together. But that's how I do it in my homeschool. So the next thing in Montessori that I love is the mixed age learning. And now I only have 2 kids, but I love that. I know in the schools, and they're so far in age, my toddler and my 9-year-old, that they wouldn't be together in a classroom, but I'm inspired by it. So many days I have my 9-year-olds that say, you're responsible, not give her the response. I'm the parent, but I say, now today you're responsible for Madison School. That's my youngest. And we have these little picture cards, or she'll read her book and she'll kind of take that upon herself and be the little mentor. Or you can see we have a globe here behind me. She would grab that and tell Madison, this is Earth and Earth is round and you live here and I live here. So she'll take it upon herself to kind of mentor and teach the toddler. And I love that mentor role, and I love that they mix the ages. I've talked a little bit about I don't know if I've talked about, but in the Danish school system, there is no elementary and middle. There is a high school in a different, but they don't move us to different school. So the elementary kids will play with the middle school kids, and they won't have classes with them. But I love that there at least is a mix in age and that it's not totally separated. So that's another thing that I've taken from the Montessori philosophy and kind of taken into our homeschool. I don't think I would have thought about letting my 9-year-old become like a mentor for my 2-year-old if I hadn't read about the philosophy by and how Montessori saw kids learning. So that's another thing. Then there is I want to call it choice and responsibility. I talked a little bit about the trays with my toddler, that I feel she picks a thing and keeps doing it till she masters it or till she's done with it and then puts it back. For instance, we were at the playground the other day, and usually she loves to swing and she runs around, but that day the slide was like, I think she slid 200 times. It was really a skill that she chose. She wanted to practice that today with her little body. Apparently there was something that she needed to learn. And so she did that for 200 times. There we were in a setting where I wasn't teaching her anything. But I can see it with my oldest daughter, that sometimes I have a plan. Today we're going to sit down and we're going to make this main lesson book and we're going to do this. And then my daughter's like, this is actually a real story from the other day. So I thought we're going to do these writing plates, because we had way back, we had about them in the Sumerian unit study. We never got to do them. We probably never will. Or maybe when we spiral back to the history of writing, we will. But I was like, we could do them now. We could sit and do these writing plates. I could get out the clay. And she was like, no, I have a story that I want to tell. And I've put together some paper. She showed me, I've made a book. And I have a 5-chapter little book that I want to do. And here I could have said, you know what, we have to do that clay plate today. You have to write those cuneiforms. I have the stick, I have the clay, I have everything ready. Come on, sit down with me, your book have to wait. Or I could let her lead and go up and draw and make her own book. And so I chose, that was something that I felt she needed to master. We have talked a lot about writing. We've talked about narration. We've had all these skills in our language arts studies, and it was way back. I was past it, but suddenly they came together for her, and she needed to do that. And I feel that's the beauty of the Montessori, to let the child lead, because often I'm a physical therapy training from Denmark, and I can see that in the I'm thinking very much in the motor skills, that there's just some things that the kid needs to train and needs to learn and need to do over and over again. You'll be sitting there, why is my toddler shoveling sand for 10,000 times? And it's something about the movement, the motor skills, the fine motor skills in the hand, also exploring the sand, going into the bucket. And I really love that about the Montessori, the whole child-led in some aspects of it. In some other aspects, I don't know how, because I've never been in a Montessori school, how much the teacher then goes in also. That's my question, because I teach a lot, or I would say spine in the school is our workbooks and our unit studies that I put together and sit and teach and narrate to her. But I also pull from the Montessori and let a lot of it be child-led, and let her, my oldest and my youngest has a lot more child. She has Montessori trees and stuff. Let her lead, and I asked her, like, when I put together a unit study, is there anything specific that you want to explore in this context? So yes, the letting the child be independent and lead a lot of the learning is something that I definitely have taken into my homeschool. Then there is the real world activities. That my kids have a pretend kitchen with pretend food, but I have also made very much sure that they have not real sharp knife that I might use, to cut out really hard things to cut out in the kitchen, but they have like knives that are sharp enough to cut out apples. They have those apple choppers my mom sent them. They have a real Swiffer, so they can Swift. I've shortened the handle. They have real cleaning cloths, so they can actually dust, and that I wash with my cleaning cloths. My little one has a real pitcher, so she can pour her own water. The whole real life skills, that they're making something real, and that it's not all pretend. I like that about the Montessori, but I feel like I've gotten that from the Waldorf a little bit in the baking and the cooking, and also from the Mason, that she's also, Charlotte Mason philosophy also has the whole that the child helps with chores and in the real life in the house. They just don't get sent away to go out and do your Montessori trays while I clean. No, you come in, you use your real life skills, and you help me. That is another thing that I won't say that I maybe got it from the Montessori, but at least it builds upon my Waldorf and Montessori and Mason experience already. So I was happy to implement that even more. So the last thing I want to mention, and I kind of mentioned it a little in the independence and the trays and the independent learning, but it is that Montessori say that from 0 to 6 years old, there is this sensitive period where the child just absorbs learning. I don't know if I pronounce it right, but just kind of almost osmosis, just take learning in. So if you prepare the environment, you put up the right things that the child can experiment with and explore, that the learning will come natural. And I feel like as a physical therapist, watching child development, watching a child, I want to say I'm not licensed in America. I'm licensed in Denmark. I don't want to sit here and claim that I'm a physical therapist here. I don't know if I can get in trouble. Just come to my mind. Just want to put that out there. But from my experience with working in that field and seeing kids and learning about motor development and how, from crawling to walking and the cross body, I think she's really onto something. And I think if we just give the child space, I feel I've seen a lot of videos lately, I don't know why they popped up, where there's these straps you can put on the kid and almost like a puppet, you can have them walk, and they say then they'll walk earlier. And as a physical therapist, I thought about the whole, if they don't crawl before, they don't get the body cross movement, it's like giving your kids strength training in the legs. I wouldn't recommend that, because I feel the bones and the legs and the muscles slowly has to develop. A child goes over, it pulls itself up to standing, and then you see it, doing those movements to strengthen the muscles in the legs. Where I know that we want to be efficient, and we want our kids to walk, and we want our kids to talk, and we want them to learn math and read. And I think there's something sacred about the early childhood, and where you have to let your kid develop at their own pace. And maybe they'll walk a few months later or a few weeks later than you would have if you don't put them in this contraption. Or maybe right now my daughter, she can't pour from the pitcher. She's spilling everywhere, so I've decided I'm going to put it outside. We're getting into warmer weather, and she can spill all around in the garden. So I don't have to help her clean it up all the time. And I just think there's something sacred, and I think both Waldorf, who has a little emerging soul, folding itself out, and Mason, who has the whole child who comes in as this little person you have to protect, and you have to expose to nature and give good literature and beautiful music. And then you have Montessori that also see this early childhood as sacred. I feel they come together. They might have different paths, but I really think all three of them can see that you don't force the child. They all agree you don't force learning. You don't just force feed the child learning. You don't push them to walk and put them in. You could take as my training in physical therapy, like you could take a baby and you could strength train its legs, and you could get it up and you could move its hips. But I don't think long term that would make a very good walker. And I feel like, I don't know if your goal was to make like a very athletic person who could run, but I actually think it would have the opposite effect, because there's just some things in your bone development and muscle development that you wouldn't gain if you didn't, you don't have to crawl, but at least you had to get up on your own, and you had to do your own strength training, pulling yourself up. And I think you would lose a lot of that. And I think it's the same maybe in the other skills that Montessori are giving, like with little coins and getting the fine motor skills, or the language arts, to get the letters in through the tactile. I don't know much about that. I don't have a degree in early childhood education or anything. But it makes sense to me. And I value that knowledge from Montessori. So yes, that was my final, I think it was seven things that I got from the Montessori philosophy, and that I have implemented in my own homeschool. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you could use some of it, and I'm very curious what you use in your homeschool. If you're like me, you're mixing it all together, or you're using one specific more, or 90% Waldorf, 10% Montessori, or the other way around. Whatever you're doing, I so love to hear it in the comments, and thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.